Ryan Shimabukuro, I got to ask you, as you prepare for, what is it, your sixth Olympic Winter Games, you've already helped Olympians snatch 7 medals. Those are certainly achievements enough to make you a notable guy, obviously, not just in your home state of Hawaii, but you've gained some notability recently with these videos you've posted on Instagram. I want to start there. Hurl and rally, puke and rally days. What is this all about?
Well, speed skating is a very, very demanding sport physiologically, not just mentally and physically. But for certain races, you're going to reach lactate levels over 25 to 30 millimoles, which, not too many people in this world can do. And unfortunately, one of the consequences is some of them are going to get hit harder than others. And so they got to puke and get it out of their system, but they got to rally to come back and finish the workout, because unfortunately that's a race requirement, because a lot of times when they're done racing, about 5-10 minutes after the race hits, they can barely stand. They're crawling to the garbage can just to make sure that they can, get it all out.
Listen, it's clearly not a cruelty. It just seems like you're pushing them hard, and this is the end result,
And the reason why I started the campaign, was just more to show the general public. If you come from the sport, then you understand that, yeah, this is just a part of the sport. And I know other sports have that as well. But, speed skating looks pretty like the skaters spend a lifetime making it look easy on the ice and on TV when the spectators watch it. But I wanted to give the general public just a backstage view of what the training is like to get to those elite levels. So hopefully they can appreciate the efforts that our athletes go through to reach the Olympic level.
Absolutely. It's not just dancing on ice. I get it. What is the core of your coaching philosophy, and how do you help create that belief system, that structure that success is actually attainable?
One of the big things is that, speed skating, in broadband definition is individual sport, but it certainly is conducted as a team. So I really try to push the team concept in my coaching philosophy. And one of the mantras I've always had for, since I was growing up was, be always on fire, blind with ambition, dripping with emotion, crazed on a mission. I think
Put that on a t-shirt.
yeah, yeah. But just really making sure that every day you come to training, every day you come to a race, whether it's a weekend time trial, a national championship, a World Cup, World Championships, or the Olympic Games, that you're, prepared as best as you can. And that when you get to that starting line and you have that private moment inside your head and you ask yourself that question, that every athlete asks, did I do everything in my power to prepare for this moment? And if there's any slight hesitation, then you didn't do your job. And I certainly didn't do my job to prepare you for that moment. So, I try to make sure on competition days and on very, very important training days that I'm going to say the right things, and I'm going to make sure that I buoy my skaters up to give their best possible effort that's needed and required, so that when the day comes at the Olympic Games and World Championships, we can step up to the moment.
Let's talk about you personally. I understand. I've done some digging and some research on you. You were personally inspired by Eric Heiden in 1980 when you saw him on the ice. I believe it was Lake Placid in that gold suit, top to bottom. You couldn't see a hair on his head. You grew up in Hawaii, a place that's obviously not known for winter sports. What was it like deciding, though, as a teenager to really pursue this? It seemed probably, I assume, a leap of faith at this point.
Yeah, obviously coming from a tropical climate, it's very unorthodox. And I was 6 years old, and my dad was watching the Lake Placid Olympics on TV. And it just happened to be one of Eric's sprint races. I just remember it being very fast. And watching him in that gold suit, he just looked like a superhero. And at that time, we didn't even have an ice rink. The Ice Palace on Oahu didn't even open up for another couple more years. And it was 2 more years after that before I even started skating. And I just felt, once I finally got on the ice in 1985, I just fell in love with it. And we were able to have, 1 hour a week for a speed skating class. And it wasn't even, we didn't even have speed skates. I had to skate either in figure skates or hockey skates. No padding on the walls, no track laid out. We had to eyeball the track. And
I bet you got bruised up a good bit.
oh yeah, you learned how to fall and hit the boards with no padding a lot. And so Just made up the rest of the ice time, lack of ice time during public sessions on Friday and Saturdays. And once I went to my first training camp in the summer of 1987 in Marquette, Michigan, and Eric Heiden's coach, Diane Holm, was the head coach for that development camp, I really understood what the requirements were going to be in this sport. And on the way home, I just decided that this was my path in life and chose to pursue my Olympic dream. And even though I fell short as an athlete, I'm very blessed and grateful to be going to my sixth Olympic Games as the head coach.
No short feat. And I got to ask, the first time you stepped on the ice and you didn't just feel that this was fun, that this was a passion of yours. Do you remember that moment? What was it like?
Oh, I was definitely very scared. I was in rental figure skates that were painful, and I just clung to the wall as I stepped onto the ice. And it was with my friends and family, so we skated for about 2 hours or so. I only fell once, which I was really pumped about. But after that, I was there every single weekend, and just the pure joy of just gliding over ice. Again, coming from a foreign state, or I should say a tropical state, foreign to speed skating, it was just a novelty. So I embraced every moment I could.
You know, you had mentioned that you didn't achieve your personal dream of competing in the Olympics, but man, you have plenty of accolades as a coach. How do you reconcile the two? The one dream did not come to fruition. However, you've attained so much success on the coaching side, being a leader. How do you reconcile both of those emotions?
Right when I decided to retire from my competitive career, I had no ambition of coaching. Unfortunately, in the 1998 Olympic trials, which were my third Olympic trials, I was sitting in a position where if I skated another really good 1,000 meter, I had a chance of getting the last spot on the team. But unfortunately, in between the weekends, because back then our Olympic trials were ran over 2 weekends, I came down with pneumonia, and I had battled bronchitis and pneumonia my entire athletic career. I was born with collapsed lungs, so I always had ventilatory issues, and I knew how long it took for me to recover from that. So when the doctor called me with the test results, and told me it was pneumonia, I knew my skating career at that point was done. I could have gone 4 more years, but I couldn't ask my family and my supporters to financially support me for another 4 years. So I had just really decided that this was going to be it. I was planning on moving home to Hawaii a few months later after the skating season was done, and just enroll in school and live a normal life. And when the opportunity to coach privately came along, I jumped at it because it sounded like a lot of fun. And within a month, I had 11 full-time skaters. And
Wow.
later that season, USB Skating hired me as the Midwest Regional Development Coach, which I did for 4 years in Milwaukee from 1998 to 2002. And they added on the additional duties of the junior national team from 1999 to 2002, and got two of the skaters that competed in the 2002 Olympics came from my program through those 4 years. And one of them, Kip Carpenter, who was a member of the U.S. sprint team, won a bronze medal in the 500, which I was really proud of. And, when I got promoted to national sprint team coach after the 202 games, I just realized that, number one, I was going to be standing on the shoulders of giants, because being a part of USB skating, where we have such a rich and deep history of success, I knew that if I was going to be successful at this Olympic level as a coach, I had my work cut out for me, and I had a lot of work to do. And I was fortunate to have a lot of great positive mentors that helped me along the way. And obviously my family and my wife and kids have allowed me to be the best version of my coaching career that I could.
Having that family around you and a close-knit family, it's not afforded to everybody. And I count myself as blessed as well as you do as well, having family there to support you. Once you started coaching, though, you made your way up through the ranks, if you will, different levels of coaching. Did you feel like you had something to prove, and did that feeling ever stop? Do you still feel like you have something to prove?
No, when I first started coaching, to be honest, my biggest thing coming off of the success of the 202 Olympic Games going into Torino in 2006 was I don't want to screw this up. That's why I wanted to work really hard and carry on the tradition of success that USP skating has had. And, going to the Olympics and representing our country is a great honor, and it's definitely a feeling that I don't take for granted and I never get tired of. And as I'm heading to my sixth Winter Olympic Games. Those expectations don't go away. If anything, they get higher and higher. And I just have to realize that some things are out of my control. We're not the only ones that do this for a living. The rest of the world is highly competitive, and so I just have to do the best I can to put my skaters in the best possible position to compete for medals on that given day.
You've gone on the record talking about your heart attack in 2019. I believe you were camping, and you had made some lifestyle changes after the fact. I'm sure you had a lot of self-reflection, a lot of conversation with family as well. But how did that instance redefine your approach to coaching and your leadership style, if anything at all?
That was definitely a wake-up call. My doctor, about 8 years earlier, my doctor in Hawaii, I've known for over 30 years, he had warned me at that point, like, you need to change something because you're begging for something cardiac related. And the stubbornness in me kind of just pushed it away. And then once it finally happened, obviously it was very emotional. I thought maybe in a way I was invincible, but mainly I really pulled back on the extremely long hours day after day. Now there are some times where I still have to do it. There's no way around it, but I put boundaries in place with my athletes. They're not texting me and calling me at all hours of the night with issues that could be resolved the next day or can be put off to later. Equipment. I used to spend a lot of extra hours working on their equipment. I've been able to delegate those responsibilities more to our blade techs, and just utilizing my staff a bit more to delegate responsibilities. And on my days off, I really try to make sure that I'm doing all my work prior and after. So when I have a day off, it's a true day off from skating, and my mind is free from anything skating related.
It seems from what I've read a little bit about you, you've incorporated a book club in some of your training as well, and focusing on mental health. How has that, let me ask you this, was there any standout moment in your development of this book club and focusing on mental health that really landed with you and said, yeah, this is actually a successful teaching mechanism, if you will?
The concept of the book club came out years ago in a collaboration with one of our sports psychs, Dr. Nick Galley, and he's been great to work with and offers a lot of insight from multiple angles that not only the skaters use, but myself. I think I use our sports psychs just as much as our athletes. But
Getting your money's worth, why not?
yeah, because obviously it's a stressful job and the expectations are high. So I've used our multiple sports psychs over the decades to help me off the ledge at times. But it just we usually in the beginning of the season we will evaluate where the team is at and what the theme is going to be for the next season. And a lot of times it's just dependent upon what the makeup of our team is, what kind of obstacles we're facing going into that season or in that Olympic quad. And we try to tackle those issues through the theme of the book club. And, it's funny because a lot of them in the beginning, they don't really participate. They may be in the room, but they're not interacting much. But to see them come out of their shell and start to really participate in the discussion. You can see the maturity that the book club brings out of them and see the mental growth in their mental health has been really, really beneficial and inspiring because ultimately, we have to deal with a lot of expectations and pressures. And I want to make sure that we're training the mental side as well as the physical side.
It's priceless stuff. Let me ask you, what's the current theme you're working on?
This past year was, emotional agility, because when you get to the Olympics, even though the competition itself, it really isn't different. The track is the same size, the ice is going to be the same relatively for everybody from start to finish, even though it's a venue that we've never competed in. But that's nothing different from Beijing. But the thing that makes the Olympics different than any other competition that we compete in is the media coverage. Obviously, in the U.S., speed skating is a very small niche sport. We only get media coverage every 4 years. So just making sure that the athletes are prepared to handle the emotional agility from the press and the media aspect of it, and not letting it turn into a burden, a weight that they have to carry around the track when they race.
I'm sure social media is definitely a hurdle that you also help prepare your athletes for too. You can immediately look at who's criticizing you, who's praising you, what people are saying in the comments.
Yes, absolutely. In my athletic career, we didn't have social media at the time. The criticism or the accolades came face to face. Here, you have a lot of keyboard warriors that can really be cruel and mean, and it's more about making sure that our athletes are well equipped to handle those types of situations and what they should be doing to manage their social media in a positive way. A lot of times, I recommend that once we get to the games, that they shut their social media down, or they potentially hand it off to somebody else that can manage it for them. But ultimately, once we start to ramp up for the games in that 11th hour, we want to make sure that the distractions are put to rest, and that we can just focus on the business of skating fast.
If I asked your athletes one thing that surprises them about you, what would it be?
Um, I'm not sure. Maybe that I wear board shorts year round. I hate wearing long pants. Um, but I'm not sure. I really don't know. That would be an interesting question to hear them answer, to
Well,
be
I
honest.
have one for you. Conor McDermott-Mostowy, he says, and this is going to surprise you considering what you told me earlier about delegating tasks. He says how much he cares, and he's a harder worker than any of us. He's often at the rink for 12 or more hours a day, but he's also doing blade work and prep to make sure every practice is as productive for us as possible. So his narrative is counter to yours.
Well, I will say, okay, that is true. In a lot of ways, I'm a control freak because I've been in situations where I have delegated it off and it didn't get done the way I personally would have wanted, which disrupted the training, and the workout wasn't as productive as I wanted. So I just, I grew up. My parents, my grandparents, always trained me to be prepared, and if you can be as prepared as possible in the moment, you're gonna have to deal with very little to no issues. So I guess one of my mantras would be, yes, to be as prepared as possible. So he's not wrong in that aspect.
Okay, fair enough. You fact checked him to an extent. You're one of the few people from Hawaii to reach this level of success for the Winter Olympics. What role do you see yourself playing, if anything, in carrying the torch? Pun absolutely intended, for folks of non-traditional backgrounds.
My whole uh, advice is never let obstacles get in your way. I'm very fortunate that I had so many people in Hawaii that opened doors for me to pursue my dream. And I think, to be honest, it was a blessing in disguise that I came from Hawaii, because if I was from the mainland, I would have just been like any other skater and probably fallen through the cracks. But because speed skating was such a novelty that a lot of people from Hawaii rallied around me. I had a lot of political politicians support me, as well as our family and friends, and even strangers. Just before crowdfunding was even a thing, obviously, because again, we didn't have internet or anything back then. You had to go out and campaign to raise money and get receive donations. So there's a lot of face-to-face interactions, and to this day, I'm so grateful for them, and like organizations like the Hawaii Okinawan Association that really, really got behind me. And so my advice is never let your potential obstacles prevent you from chasing your dreams. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to help certain athletes come from places like Ocala, Florida, or South America, or other countries that didn't come from a traditional winter sports background. It's just because I understand the struggles a little bit more.
You seem like a man who defines the phrase "never forget where he came from." Ryan Shimabukuro, I am very grateful for your time. Best of luck. I would say break a leg, but that sounds like bad luck. So we'll leave we'll leave it at that. And we're rooting for you guys. Enjoy the time off that you have. It's limited, but thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the support.